How Jesus inspired change through history. When researchers analyzed the founding documents of major humanitarian organizations worldwide, they discovered that approximately 75% of charitable giving in the United States stems from religious faith, a pattern traceable to a windswept hillside in ancient Galilee, where disciples gathered around their teacher, hanging on words that would echo through history. The Sermon on the Mount remains perhaps the most revolutionary ethical framework ever articulated. Yet many Christians struggle to connect these principles to their historical impact. Our documentary bridges this gap, following 5 individuals across different centuries whose lives were fundamentally transformed by these teachings, demonstrating how this ancient wisdom continues to offer solutions to our most pressing contemporary problems. The Sermon on the Mount, a revolutionary framework. What if the most profound ethical revolution in human history began with a simple sermon on a hillside in ancient Galilee? To appreciate the radical nature of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, we must first understand the socio-political landscape of first-century Palestine. This was a society under Roman occupation, where the imperial presence was not merely political but culturally pervasive. The Roman Empire operated on a strict hierarchical structure that valued power, military might, and social status above all else. Within this imperial framework, Jewish society itself maintained rigid social stratifications, with religious authorities often serving as gatekeepers of moral righteousness and ritual purity. The socio-economic reality of Jesus' Galilee revealed profound disparities. Archaeological excavations in Capernaum show modest dwellings of local black basalt stone standing in the shadow of opulent Roman administrative buildings. Most inhabitants engaged in subsistence fishing, bearing the weight of double taxation from religious authorities and Roman officials. Against this canvas of oppression, like a lamp illuminating a darkened house, Jesus delivered ethical teachings that would transform Western civilization. The Sermon on the Mount presented a systematic inversion of prevailing cultural values. The social order Jesus envisioned directly challenged both Roman imperial ideology and religious establishment norms. The Greek term makarios, blessed, that introduces each beatitude traditionally described the state of gods or ruling elites, yet Jesus deliberately attributed this blessed state to those marginalized by society. Consider how revolutionary it would sound when Jesus declared, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." In a world where land acquisition occurred through conquest or imperial decree, this statement appeared utterly absurd. The concept of praetos, meekness, suggested a gentle strength antithetical to Roman virtues of dominance. Jesus presented this inversion not as utopian fantasy but as divine reality breaking into human history. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. These words stood in profound opposition to the Roman judicial system with its emphasis on retribution. Archaeological evidence throughout the empire reveals how violence functioned as entertainment and social control. Jesus' elevation of mercy represented a fundamental critique of the entire Roman approach to justice and social stability. The pronouncement, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God," carried unmistakable political implications. This teaching directly challenged imperial propaganda that proclaimed the emperor as divine son bringing Pax Romana through military might. The designation Sons of God, with its messianic and royal connotations in Jewish thought, effectively democratized divine sonship beyond the imperial family to those pursuing genuine peace rather than imposed pacification. Biblical scholar David De Silva notes that Jesus redrew the boundaries of honor and shame, creating an alternative community with values diametrically opposed to the surrounding culture. In this honor-shame Mediterranean society, Jesus elevated precisely those characteristics considered shameful, declaring honorable in God's kingdom the very people deemed lowest in society. Jesus' rhetorical approach reinforced his countercultural message. By repeatedly using the formula, "You have heard it said, but I say to you," he positioned himself not merely as teacher but as one claiming authority to reinterpret divine law, either blasphemous or messianic, depending on one's perspective. Among the sermon's most profound challenges was Jesus' command to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. In a society defined by tribal and family loyalties, this teaching represented a fundamental reordering of social boundaries, contradicting both Roman policy toward rebellious territories and sectarian attitudes among various Jewish groups. The sermon's economic teachings similarly undermined established systems. Archaeological findings from villa remains in Galilee demonstrate increasing stratification as wealthy landowners accumulated property while peasants struggled under mounting debt. Jesus' teachings about heavenly treasure and his warnings against serving both God and mammon directly challenged economic foundations of Roman society. The enduring transformative power of the sermon derives partly from its unique combination of ethical idealism with practical wisdom. Unlike abstract philosophical treatises, Jesus grounded his vision in ordinary human experiences, anxiety, interpersonal conflict, religious hypocrisy, while simultaneously elevating these mundane concerns to cosmic significance. This integration of transcendent vision with practical application has enabled the sermon to remain revolutionary yet accessible across diverse cultural contexts throughout millennia.